Have you ever found yourself wondering if there's, a bigger plan for your life? Like a hidden purpose just waiting for you? And maybe, just maybe, the whole universe is actually, rooting for you to find it.
It's a really hopeful thought, isn't it? That idea that there are forces, maybe unseen, sort of guiding you along.
Absolutely. And it's an idea that's really captured millions. So today we're doing a deep dive into the book that brought this whole concept right into the spotlight. Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist.
Right.
Our goal here is to kind of give you a shortcut, unpack its main ideas, the symbols and those messages that just keep resonating, to figure out why it clicks with so many people looking for, self-discovery.
Exactly. And at its core, The Alchemist introduces us to Santiago. He's a young shepherd in Andalusia, Spain.
Okay.
And his story kicks off with this recurring dream he keeps having about a hidden treasure somewhere. But, as we'll get into, chasing that physical treasure turns into something much, much deeper.
The search for his personal legend.
Precisely. His true life purpose.
And that switch from a simple dream about treasure to this huge quest for purpose, that's what makes it so gripping, I think. It came out in Portuguese back in '88, then English in '93. And it's hard to pin down genre-wise. It's part allegory, part philosophical fiction, part adventure story. What was it about that time, do you think, that made this seemingly simple story hit such a nerve globally?
That's a great point. I think it's this blend of timelessness and, honestly, simplicity. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, the world is changing fast.
Yeah.
Right. And there's this real hunger for meaning, for spiritual connection, maybe outside of traditional structures.
Yeah.
Coelho offered this story about individual destiny, about hope, but without being preachy. It felt kind of fresh, but also tapped into really old wisdom.
Okay, so let's dig into Santiago's journey then. He's got this comfortable life, looking after his sheep, everything's predictable. But this dream, this treasure near the Egyptian pyramids, it just won't leave him alone. It's that classic call to adventure, right?
It absolutely is. But it's the people he meets early on that really push him. There's a gypsy woman who interprets the dream, which is interesting, but then Melchizedek.
Ah, yes, the mysterious king.
Right, the king of Salem. He doesn't just say, follow your dream. He introduces this whole idea of the personal legend.
Yeah.
He tells Santiago to watch for omens, to actually do it, even though it sounds crazy. He basically gives Santiago's inner voice some validation.
And that's the spark. He leaves Spain, crosses into North Africa. It's a massive physical journey, obviously, but the spiritual one feels even bigger. And along the way, he meets some really memorable characters. What's the deal with them? The Englishman, the crystal merchant, eventually the alchemist himself. How did they change Santiago? It feels like more than just moving the plot forward.
Oh, definitely. They're not just plot points. They're almost like archetypes. They each represent a different lesson or stage in his growth.
Okay.
Like the crystal merchant. He teaches Santiago about patience, sure, but also about the fear of actually achieving your dream, how sometimes settling is easier.
Interesting.
Then the Englishman represents the purely intellectual path, trying to learn alchemy just from books. And Santiago sees the limits of that.
Right.
But the alchemist, the title character, he embodies actually living the wisdom. He shows Santiago how to connect with the world, how to listen. Each one kind of strips away some naivety and builds understanding. It all points back to that core idea. The real treasure isn't out there. It's inside.
Which brings us right to that central concept, the personal legend. The book presents it as this innate, true calling, something everyone has. And happiness comes not just from achieving it, but from actually being on that path, pursuing it. But if it's innate, why is it so hard for us? What do you think is the toughest part about seeing those obstacles in ourselves, not just reading about Santiago's?
That's where Coelho really hits home, I think. He points to fear, routine, the comfort zone, and the hardest part, it's that they're internal.
Right.
It's not just fear of failing, but sometimes fear of succeeding, fear of the unknown, what people might think. Routine feels safe, predictable. Comfort zones, they're comfortable for a reason, right?
Yeah.
They don't demand anything new from us.
That's true.
We stick with what we know, even if it's not fulfilling, because the alternative feels huge, scary. The book makes breaking free sound simple, but simple isn't the same as easy, is it? It needs a real shift in how you look at things.
Definitely makes you think about your own life. And then there's that line, the one everyone knows, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. It's incredibly powerful, but sometimes it sounds a bit like wishful thinking. What's Coelho really saying there?
Yeah, it's easy to take that as just, oh, sit back and the universe will deliver. But I think Coelho's suggesting something more active. It's about developing a heightened awareness. Learning to notice the opportunities, the connections, the synchronicities that maybe were always there, but you just weren't tuned in. It reframes your effort. It's not you struggling alone. It's you aligning yourself with this flow.
So it's about being receptive.
Exactly. Being receptive, spotting the omens, and crucially, acting on them. It's about the power of intention, really. When you're fully committed, you start to notice the resources and help that are available.
And it's that commitment, that faith in his personal legend that helps Santiago learn to listen, right? To understand what Coelho calls the language of the universe. How does someone even start to listen for something like that? Is it signs, feelings?
It seems to be a mix of both. Santiago learns to spot omens. Could be anything, a bird, a chance meeting, a feeling, a thought that keeps coming back.
Okay.
So it's partly about paying attention to your intuition, that gut feeling, but also looking at the world around you with fresh eyes, with curiosity. The language isn't always direct. It's often symbolic. You have to interpret.
So being present helps.
Totally. Being present, letting go of expectations. It's like the world is whispering directions, but you need to quiet down the internal noise to hear them.
And this whole process of listening, tuning in, it leads us straight to alchemy. Now, I have to admit, when I first saw the title, The Alchemist, I expected something different, more literal maybe. How does the book redefine alchemy for us?
That's a common reaction. It cleverly uses the old idea of turning lead into gold, but as this big central metaphor.
For personal change.
Exactly. For personal growth, inner transformation. The true alchemy, as the alchemist character explains it, isn't about making physical gold. It's about purifying yourself, understanding your own nature, seeing the divine spark in everything, and transforming your own base metals, your fears, your doubts, your limitations into the gold of your true self, your personal legend realized.
So the transformation is the real treasure, not just the end goal. Does Coelho suggest this is like a final state you reach, or is it ongoing?
Definitely feels ongoing. The treasure Santiago finds in the end. Yes, there's a physical aspect, but the real reward is the wisdom, the self-knowledge, the connection he gains during the journey. Becoming your best version isn't checking a box. It's this continuous process of unfolding, learning, deepening that connection.
And love plays a big part in that journey too, doesn't it? Santiago meets Fatima at the oasis. Their relationship feels really significant. It represents this idea of unselfish love, right? Why is it important that her love helps him rather than holds him back?
It's a really beautiful and, I think, quite modern take on love in a quest story.
Yeah.
It pushes back against that old idea that love means possessing someone or that you have to sacrifice your dreams for a relationship.
Yeah.
Fatima understands Santiago's personal legend. She loves him enough to let him go pursue it, trusting that if their love is real, fate or the universe will bring them back together. It embodies that quote, "One is loved because one is loved. No reason is needed for loving." It shows love as something that frees you, empowers you, rather than something that binds you.
Yeah.
It requires immense faith on her part, too.
Such a powerful idea delivered so simply. And speaking of simplicity, let's touch on Coelho's style. It's incredibly straightforward, almost poetic. He tackles these huge spiritual themes, but makes them feel accessible. How does that simple language work so well?
I think the simplicity is key to its magic. It stops these profound ideas from feeling heavy or academic.
Right.
By using clear, almost fable-like language, he lets the allegory shine through. It's like looking through a clean window, you see the landscape clearly. And that simple style is paired with really rich symbolism.
Like the desert.
Exactly. The desert isn't just sand, it's a place of testing, purification, solitude. The oasis is respite, life, love. The sheep represent comfort, following the herd, maybe avoiding the call to adventure. Every piece means something beyond the literal.
It's like every part of the story is speaking that language of the universe, too. There's another quote that really captures the book's feeling for me. It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. Just sums up that hopeful pursuit.
It really does. Frames life as this exciting potential, not just a destination to reach.
So when we look at why The Alchemist connects so deeply, its strengths are pretty clear. Those universal themes, searching for meaning, purpose, they cut across cultures, religions.
Absolutely. And its inspirational message is just undeniable. It makes you feel genuinely that maybe you can chase that dream you've put on the shelf.
And it's short. You can read it quickly, but then you sit with it. It's accessible but deep, perfect for reflection, like a gentle nudge.
Ideal for anyone feeling a bit lost or needing that encouragement.
Okay, but for a balanced deep dive, we should also touch on the criticisms, because not everyone loves it, right? Some find the message, well, simplistic, maybe even naive. How do you see that critique?
That's probably the most common one. For some readers, that constant optimism, the universe conspiring idea, it can feel a bit too neat, maybe glossing over the really harsh realities, the systemic barriers people face that have nothing to do with their mindset.
Right, it doesn't really tackle external obstacles much.
Not really. And another point is repetition. The core message, follow your personal legend, listen to the omens, gets repeated quite a bit. For some, that reinforces it. For others, it can feel a little redundant after a while.
And what about Santiago himself and the plot? Some critics say he's more of a symbol than a fully fleshed out character, and that once you figure out the pattern, the story becomes predictable.
Both valid points from a purely literary analysis view. Santiago is more archetype than complex individual. And yes, the plot follows a clear allegorical path.
So how does that square with its massive success?
I think its success comes from what it sets out to be. It's not aiming for gritty realism or intricate character study. It's a fable. It's meant to be direct, inspirational.
Like the book itself suggests, read it with an open heart.
Kind of, yeah. It resonates most powerfully, I think, with people who are looking for that clarity, that encouragement, that gentle push. It's less about analyzing plot twists and more about absorbing the feeling, the core message about pursuing your own path. It succeeds wildly at that.
That makes sense. So wrapping up our deep dive then. The Alchemist really isn't just a story about a shepherd looking for gold. It's much more like a spiritual guidebook in disguise. Through Santiago's journey, Coelho is basically nudging all of us, encouraging us to listen to our hearts, pay attention to those little signs, those omens, and crucially, to go after our dreams without letting fear win.
Yeah, and we hope this deep dive has maybe given you a clearer picture of why this simple-seeming book has had such a huge impact on so many lives. For so long, it really speaks to something fundamental.
It does, and maybe a final thought to leave you with. Based on all this, if the universe does conspire to help you achieve your dreams, what small sign, what little intuitive nudge might you be overlooking right now in your own life? And, well, what could happen if you actually decided to follow it? Something to chew on, maybe.